Before we start, we'd like to thank our sponsors, gumballheaven.com. Do you like gum? If you do, you better check out gumballheaven.com and order yourself or your business a gumball machine with the yummiest gumballs ever. Gumballheaven.com will hook you up.
And we would also like to thank MiguelHernandezLaw.com, the best lawyers in California. If you do a lot of drugs, get into trouble, make poor decisions like robbing banks, or if you get arrested and you're innocent, give them a call. MiguelHernandezLaw.com. If you need a lawyer, you need them. And we would also like to thank Cliff's Tire and Battery. You have a car, you need tires, and you need a battery. You don't need the hassle of going to some impersonal corporate store that treats you like a number. Go see Cliff's Tire and Battery in Salinas. They are located at 631 East Market Street. Tell them that the Twister Sisters sent you for a free smile and a high five. Let us tell you about a sponsor and a friend of the Unlikely Survivors podcast. He is a friend and a colleague of the Hernandez Law Firm. His name is William V. Pernick, and he is an awesome attorney. He comes highly recommended by Jevin Hernandez and Miguel Hernandez. Check out his website, pernicklaw.com. That is PERNIK law.com. If you need a lawyer who drops nuclear bombs in court, then check out pernicklaw.com. If you need a lawyer that will break bones and carries a flamethrower, then check out pernicklaw.com. William V. Pernick is fearless and comes highly recommended.
There's only one running store in Central California that you need to know about. I am talking about The Treadmill, located in the beautiful town of Carmel at 111 Crossroads Boulevard. The Treadmill is a Peninsula's running company. Everyone who works there is extremely knowledgeable on running, fitness, and nutrition. Check them out at thetreadmill.com. Ask about their awesome running events. They will take care of all your running needs. We'd also like to talk to you about C12 Recovery. C12 is a post-workout drink. If you're tired of being sore after your workout, then you need C12 Recovery. Recover your body 5 times faster with less muscle soreness. Check out C12 Recovery on Amazon.com today. It works and tastes freaking awesome.
It puts the lotion on its skin.
Yeah, see, look, you still do the last word.
Yeah, I do.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Unlikely Survivors podcast. I'm Caden.
And I'm Julie, and we are the Twister Sisters.
Today we have... Which one would like to go first?
Jerry.
And...
Jocelyn. And I'm Watson. And?
I'm William.
Okay. Anyways...
a lot of names.
Don't judge. Anyways, the first question for Jerry is, where were you born?
In a hospital.
Where was your son born?
Me too.
So where was your son born?
In our bedroom at home. One of them. The other one was born in the hospital. Oh, the other one was born in the hospital. Yeah, that took over all 3 of them.
Okay.
But what city were you born in?
Yeah.
Oh.
Or town?
Downey, California.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I like that name. Where did you grow up?
Actually, I grew up in Southern California in a little town called Paramount.
Oh, yeah. I like that name, too. It's a cute name.
What was it like growing up there?
Awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Were there rainbows and flowers?
All the time.
Rainbows like your shirt.
It's
One
a
of the
double
most
rainbow.
neatest things I ever remember was walking outside and it was sunny, but 2 houses down, there was a solid sheet of rain.
Oh, wow.
And I could just look and I could see the rain, but where I'm standing 100 feet from it, it's sunny. And that was awesome.
That sounds cool.
I know, that sounds really cool. I would totally dig that. Tell us one of your favorite stories from your youth.
One of my favorite stories from my youth. Gosh.
Or one of your fondest memories.
One of my fondest memories from my youth. Probably playing sports in school. I wrestled and played football. Or actually, I played football and then wrestled because football was before wrestling.
Like, what grades were you in when you played sports?
I was a junior and a senior because I had knee issues before then and I couldn't get cleared to play sports. But when I became a junior, they cleared me, and boy, I was right there. Football and wrestling.
What benefits did you get from playing sports?
The importance of keeping your body and yourself in as good as physical condition as you can. I think that was the main thing that I took from sports, and the fun involved in it, and the camaraderie between all the people, and it was just a good growing experience.
Yeah. I don't play many sports, but I play one.
I don't think she's gotten any more muscle from the. I don't think she took the advice that you gave her, Josh, to get more muscle.
Instead, you became a vegetarian.
Actually, that was
I did the exact opposite of what you said. I stayed indoors all day and was lazy.
Julie and
I'm not in bad physical condition though. I'm just skinny.
I dare you to pinch your skin.
No, don't. I'm gonna sit like
Julie and I, we both do gymnastics. We're in level 3 right now, and I ride horses.
Level 9,000.
Dude, there's 11-year-olds in level 6 or whatever.
That's double you.
I know.
I know.
There's an 11-year-old that's level 9, I think.
Great.
She's taking a testing for level 10 last October. I think it was those levels. What is one of the worst injuries you think you got?
Worst injuries.
Once you recovered from playing sports.
Oh, from playing sports.
I got bit by my dog yesterday.
Let's see. I would say a knee injury. It was very painful. And matter of fact, it took me out of sports. Because when I went on to college, I went to Compton Junior College, I couldn't pass a physical for sports, so I decided not to go to college because I wanted to play sports. So I went in the Army.
How did you get that injury?
Playing football. I got hit in the knee and it kind of tweaked it. But that happens.
Okay. Any good stories from a practice or a game playing football?
Good stories from a practice or a game. I think probably the neatest practices I had. I wrestled in the 170 range, and because there wasn't a lot of people in that range in my school that wrestled. I would get to work out with guys that were like 190 and 200, and I think it helped me be a better wrestler because I got to work with bigger people, and I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, when I was 92s, I wrestled with a 114-pounder.
Closer.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And these are the weight classes, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. We learned some wrestling on the last podcast with Josh.
Yeah.
But I still don't really know anything about it.
Yeah,
I told you everything about it.
It still confuses us.
Wait, Grandpa, so you only wrestled for 2 years?
Yes, only 2 years.
How long did you play football?
2 years.
I wrestled and played football for 0 years.
Nice job.
0.00.0.
Your parents would be so proud.
Yes, they're very proud of my success.
So, okay, you said you were in the Army?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I was in the Army.
You said I had to go to college and go to the Army. How old were you when you joined?
I was 18 years old when I joined. And I was 19 years old when I met his dad's mom.
Oh. Can you tell us about boot camp?
Boot camp was tough.
Okay, I want to hear about this.
Well, they want to make sure they train you to be a soldier. Mm-hmm. And so they try to make everybody kind of the same. And, it's weird because there's no individuality in basic training. You're just a bunch of people all trying to be taught to do the same thing. And then as you start moving through, you get to show a different quality, I guess, than just being the basic trainee. And those are the people that will get to rise up in the organization, if you will. But basic was tough. A lot of marching and running and calisthenics. And
do you really do like what they show in the movies, doing the obstacle courses or like going under mud with barbed wire on top?
Yes, you do. I will never forget that night. They took us out for a training exercise, and we had to march 12 miles out there. And by the time we got there, it was dark. And then we had to do an exercise once we got there, and that exercise happened to be crawling through mud on your stomach. And there was barbed wire stretched across the top, so you had barbed wire above you so you couldn't stand up. And then they start shooting these tracer bullets. I don't know if you've ever seen those before, but it looks like a streak of light shooting when they shoot these tracers. And I don't know if they were firing live ammunition, but they were firing like machine guns. And then you'd see these tracers every so often go. And I think that was to scare us, to make sure we kept our heads down. But it was a few hundred yards that we had to crawl, and it was different. I mean,
That's a lot to go through.
it was scary.
I'm never going to boot camp.
Did you end up eating mud?
I think I tasted some, yeah. I don't think I ate it. I think I spit it back out. But
Yeah, I don't think anyone would want to just swallow. Like, oh, I have mud in my mouth. Let's swallow. I don't think anyone
So what
would
does
do
mud
that.
taste like?
dirt.
Dirt and water combined.
Yeah, wet dirt.
What do you call it? What do you think was one of your best qualities when you were at boot camp? That, like,
They taught you?
yeah,
Oh,
something you were really
boy.
good at.
I'm not sure they taught it to me. It's something I think I learned. And that's to respect people for their abilities and what they can do and what they can't do. And you have to be able to recognize that in people. And I think that was one of the things I took out of that experience. I think the military was a good growing experience for me. It taught me some things about life and how to look at life, and it was interesting.
You know, like, everyone has their strengths and their weaknesses. I'm not good at sports. That's my weakness. Caden, don't judge.
I like
Judge
sports.
her.
It's just
I'm just kidding.
don't know as much about it.
I like running.
Could you tell us about, like, I don't know what you call the commanders or captains, I guess you could say?
Sergeants.
Sergeants? I don't know all the names.
What do you want to know about them?
Like the drill sergeant, or
Well, who was your, I'm just going to say
Were they
commander,
crazy,
commander
mean?
like? Were they crazy? Were they nice? Were some that would be like, show no mercy? Or were they just nice guys that told you to do stuff? Which,
Probably not.
Yeah, I can't say as I meant any nice guys. Not in the roles of the sergeants and lieutenants and that kind of thing. I mean, you know, when you think about it, they're all there to keep you under control and to make you do what they want you to do. And so I don't think any of them are being real friendly about the whole thing. But I learned a lot about people in the service, and I hope I was able to carry that through life to help me deal with people. I spent 35 years in the 911 business, and I think a lot of the stress that I felt in that job I was able to cope with because of how I learned to grow up myself through, you know, the teenage years and then in my young adult years. And
what you just mentioned 911, what did you do there?
well, I worked for Monterey County for 20 years in 911. I started there in 1972 and then worked there for 20 years. And I started as a dispatcher taking calls. and then I went into supervision, and then I went into management. And then after 20 years, I wanted to move to Southern California because my parents were getting up in age. So I went to work for the city of Costa Mesa for 15 years as a 911 manager for the city's telecommunications system. And I think it was a very rewarding experience. Mm-hmm. It wasn't what I learned in my education, but then again, I learned in my education what was of interest to me, not what my career was going to be.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Working there, what was one of your best memories or fondest memories, or just something you remember?
I think knowing every day when I went home from work as a dispatcher, I was able to help somebody throughout that shift, and I think that was the most rewarding thing. As I mentioned a moment ago, I went to school while I was working in 911, and I went to Hartnell College, and then I moved on to UCSC and did my bachelor work there. And I still worked part-time as a dispatcher, and then when I transferred to UCSC, I had to stop and concentrate fully on my last 2 years there. And that was at a time, I'm sure you probably don't remember it, but it was called Prop 13, and there was a lot of freeze on hiring and stuff like that. So when I graduated from UCSC, I had a bachelor's degree in psychobiology. I went back to get my full-time job at Monterey County, and there was a hiring freeze, so I couldn't. So I went back for another year and did a second bachelor's degree in biochemistry. And then at the end of that, I could have moved to San Francisco and stayed in the field I was educated in, or openings had come back up in the 911 world, and I really enjoyed that career. So I went back to work in 911. And again, what I got my degrees on were purely of interest to me, not to help me in my career. One degree I got that I thought would help me in my career, and that was my master's degree in public administration. And I think it did help me in my career rise into management and executive management when I moved to Southern California.
Mm-hmm. Wow, so you did 9 years of college, right?
Actually, I did 7 years of junior college at Hartnell because I was working midnight to 8 at the 911 center and then getting off and going to school. And it just took me a long time. At that time, I was married and had children, and had to raise them, and so yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's so awesome, though.
I liked it.
Yeah, it seems like a really great journey.
It's been a wonderful journey, and I think the most fortunate thing for me when I reached 56. My dad had Alzheimer's, and he was a real handful with my mom, so I went ahead and retired, and I was able to go over to their house every day and, do things that my dad couldn't do anymore, and visit with them and take care of them and help them. And then 6 months after I retired, he passed away, and we had already bought property in Texas because we knew we were moving there, and we went ahead and moved on to Texas. But I was so pleased that last 6 months of his life, I was able to spend it with them and concentrate on the parents that raised me through my life, and it was just a real good experience in my life.
Mm-hmm. It's really sweet.
Yeah. Okay. My throat.
Can you tell us about your kids?
I have wonderful kids. And wonderful grandkids.
Mm-hmm. Which is your favorite?
Let's see. All of them.
But there's secretly always a favorite.
There's always a favorite.
I can't have a favorite.
There's always a favorite.
Because they're all of my favorites. Well, do you want me to talk about my sons first?
Sure. Go ahead.
I had 3 sons. Now I have 2. My oldest son, his name was Clint. He passed away from multiple sclerosis, but he was a fine young man, taught me a lot about life. And in 2000 and 2001 or 2002, I forget now, I saw an ad on TV, a commercial for torch carriers for the Olympics that were going to take place in Salt Lake City. And so I went and I found out what you had to do, and you had to write a story about somebody that deserved to carry the torch. So I wrote a story about Clint and what he taught me in life, and he taught me a lot of valuable things. And he was selected to carry the torch. Now, he had MS. He was confined to a wheelchair. He shook a lot. So they had a holder on his wheelchair that they stuck the torch in, and he just pushed the thing and went forward to the next person, and then they hand the torch off to them. But that was such a wonderful experience. And then they had a big thing over in Seaside where they had all the Olympic people that carried the torch from all over Monterey County. It was just a wonderful experience. But unfortunately, he passed away from the MS.
We have some of the pictures of him with the torch.
Yeah.
Yeah, back at the house.
That is so cool.
I know, that's a great story.
Yeah. I like I said, I have wonderful family. Mm-hmm. My second son, Jerry, and he was junior, and he's done real well in life. He's had some issues along the way, but he got beyond those, and now he has a business of his own in Texas, and he lives right down the road from me, and we see each other a lot. And he lived on the same property as I did for a while. I have a couple homes on my property. And so he had one of them, but he was my second son. He was born in Panama when I was down there in the Army, and so he has a Panamanian birth certificate and a U.S. birth certificate, so he's got two citizenships. And then my bicentennial baby, his dad, born in 1976, Joshua. He was our last one, and one of the three great young men that I have in my life. So I think a lot about Josh and his family, and, well, you know one of them. Well, I'm sure you know all of them. I can go on and on, so I'll have to stop and you ask me questions.
Oh, no, if you have, any more stories that you want to tell, you can. If you want, we love people who tell stories here on the podcast.
I know you do.
How was it raising my dad when he was 18?
When he was 18? I don't think I raised him when he was 18. I think he was already raised. I think we helped him in their younger years grow to a point, and then at some point you have to recognize that there's a person developing in there, and they are going to make up their own minds and their own decisions, and hopefully you've given them the growth and the experience and the advice and the lessons and things to help them make good decisions in life. But at some point you have to back up and recognize that they make their own decisions, and you have to be as supportive as you can. So that's where I come from. I think one of the qualities that I have enjoyed the most in my life, and I try all the time to recognize it and keep it in front of me, is to be optimistic. Yeah. I mean, everything has a beautiful side to it. We all have, challenges that we go through, and we all have things we have to deal with. But if you can deal with that and stay knowing that things are going to get better and have that optimistic attitude, I think that's one of the things that helps people live longer in life. I plan on living to be 100, so I'm going to be as optimistic as I can.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I think that, a lot of the negative experiences that we have can always have, a positive experience in the future. Mm-hmm.
I look at every experience as an opportunity to grow somehow. Mm-hmm, and hopefully it's in a good way.
Mm-hmm, all of our experiences give us, experience. Yeah. And some of the tough times we go through can give us knowledge for the future.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Caden?
Sorry about that. So we heard you had a boxing gym. What was your experience with boxing?
Well, it's funny you brought that up because I remember watching a podcast with you all here a little while back, and I think this young man said, my dad had a boxing gym. Well, actually, his dad had the boxing gym. He was just one of the boxers in the gym. But it was fun. The boys come home one day, and they had run into somebody that knew about a boxing club out in Prunedale. And so I listened to him, and I went out with him, and they seemed to really enjoy it. It was Jerry and Clint that started it, and Josh was right in behind him. But they were the two main ones that got involved, was Clint and Jerry. And then all of a sudden we found out that the guy was selling the boxing club because he just didn't want to be in that business anymore. He's a pretty old guy. And so we had a big meeting with all the parents at the round table there in Castroville. And all of them were, oh, yeah, let's put our money together and we'll get this boxing club and have a place for the kids to go to. So my wife and I ponied up the money to buy the equipment, and then we never saw any of the other parents again. So we had a boxing club for a while, but it was a real neat experience. One of the young men in our club won the Northern California Championships and was invited to the Olympic Training Center in Colorado, and I was able to go with him, and it was just a wonderful time. He lost the first fight in the they had to fight to move on through the different divisions there to get into the Olympics, but still it was just a real rewarding experience being around all these young men or young adults learning this sport. And I was interested in refereeing, so I was able to take a couple classes on refereeing, and it was just a real neat experience. But yeah.
There real quick, just tightening this.
Oh, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
Technical difficulties. We are back, and
So I'm not mute anymore?
No.
Okay, good. So,
You can keep going with what you're saying.
okay. As long as I don't have to repeat it, because I'm not sure I remember what I said.
Caden, how could you interrupt?
I'm sorry, I just there was a buzz.
No, it's cool.
Can you tell us about one of your most intense fights
Or boxing other people.
with boxing?
Yeah.
I'm going to say that my most intense viewing was Clint. We had a boxing event that we arranged in Castroville at the community center, and Clint fought in that, and I believe, I'm not sure if Jerry fought in it. I think Jerry fought in it, but anyhow, I remember Clint got knocked out in that fight, and that was just. To see your son get knocked out, it was weird. But anyhow, I don't think he boxed too much after that because, I think he had a glass jaw.
That must have hurt.
I'm like...
It did to me, and I didn't even get hit.
Yeah.
I know, it's like scary.
I've seen the shock with that. I was in a horse show in Paso during April, and not my trainer, but in a way she is my trainer. And she helps me a lot with my horses. She was going down the fence with the cow, so you have your horse and then your cow when you're going down the fence, and her and the horse slammed into the fence. And her daughter and I, we gasped so hard, and our hearts were beating so fast. I thought she was going to fall.
Oh.
But her horse found her way back up because her legs got tangled with the cows, and was still going and was being all good, and she lost one of her reins. And she was okay, but it's scary.
The horse fell or the girl?
They didn't fall, but both the cow and the horse fell on their knees, I think.
Caden, how do you gas so hard?
You just,
Like
The horse
loudly,
kneeled,
so
the horse just kneeled
dramatically.
down.
well, both of them lost their balance. And then Jennifer lost one of her reins, so ended up pulling on one of her reins. She didn't mean to, so that brings the horse's head to one side. But this little 3-year-old or 4-year-old, I can't remember which, found her way back up and saved
horse?
her rider.
The horse is 3 years old?
3 or 4, I think.
All right.
Now, was this like calf roping? Is that what?
Not roping, you just work a cow.
Oh, okay.
So you're just
You direct it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you're running it back and forth between a fence.
Yeah.
And it's a really intense. It's intense. Going down the fence is what we call it.
Horse stuff confuses me. Okay.
Sorry, I feel like half the stuff I say about horses, no one gets it.
No.
Oh, I think
Caden-
it's cool.
I was holding like one of the ropes by the wrong angle, and Caden got so mad at me.
She even said
I don't know which way to hold the reins. Okay, moving on. What was it? What was it like training other people? Like, how was your experience doing that?
I wasn't a trainer. We kind of owned the gym. We opened it and closed it. You know, I went out to open the door and then closed it when everybody was going home. So I really wasn't a trainer, but I would help them as much as I could. You know, I remember the young man I mentioned to you that won the Northern California Championships. Mm-hmm. He was a real good fighter. His name was Herman, and he did so well. It was hard for him to get somebody to get in the ring with him out at the gym so he could practice. And so, silly me, I said, yeah, I'll get in there and help you out. So I put, some headgear on, and boy, the first shot he threw at me hit me right in the ribs and separated the cartilage from my ribs. And it was hard to breathe for quite a while after that. But after that, I understood why people didn't want to get in the ring with him.
That must have hurt.
Yeah.
A lot.
It did, yeah.
Yeah. Getting the wind knocked out of you is enough.
Well, it was like 40-some years ago, and I swear I still feel it today.
What was his name, Herman?
Herman.
Yeah, when Herman went to the Olympics, or the Olympic training, was the rules to where they are now? To where it used to be like whoever had the most hits?
Yes. Yeah, it was the Olympic style boxing. Yeah. I don't think the rules have really changed that much in the Olympic boxing arena.
What's the Olympic style boxing?
It's more point gathering than it is trying to knock a guy out. I mean, a good solid hit will get you just as much as if you knock the guy down as far as the points go. Mm-hmm. So the whole thing is about scoring and bringing up as many points as you can get in those 3 minutes that you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know about boxing. I know more about wrestling than boxing.
I don't know about either.
3 judges, and when they hit, at least 2 of the 3 judges have to press a button.
Yeah, they've gone to that electronic. Yeah.
And then they get a point.
At least I still think they use that. The judges all have to hit it within a certain amount of time in order for the score to tally up.
Tell us about the different places you've lived.
Different places I lived. Well, I was born in Southern California, and I lived there till I went in the service, and that took me to Fort Ord. And I was out in Fort Ord for basic training. And then from basic training, I went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts for Morse code training. And
do you still know Morse code?
Barely.
Sorry, keep going.
And I can talk about Morse code too. But it was funny back in that training, since you brought up the Morse code here. You know what Morse code is?
Like
the
the
di-di-da and da-di-da. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, in the Army, when we were learning that, we would have headsets on and we would listen to the code and we would type on typewriters. And when you were walking by these buildings where these guys are being trained, all you would hear was synchronicity of typewriters going, and you could hear it all the way as you're walking in front of a building. And it was just, 50 or 60 guys in this building all hitting the keys at the same time. And it was a real funny sound. I remember that. Mm-hmm. And then from Fort Devens, Massachusetts, I went back to Fort Ord and was here for a while. And then they sent me to Fort Sill, Oklahoma. And I was going to artillery school. And boy, that had to be one of the most eye-opening experiences of my life. You know what artillery is? Those big cannons that shoot. The concussion you get from when those things fire, I just was amazed at what it was like. I mean, it was just a force that, it was something else. Yeah. But anyhow, I had surgery on my knee when I was there because I had that football injury that I was still dealing with. And so they put me in the hospital and did some surgery on my knee and then said I could either continue on in the school and maybe not qualify physically to be a graduate at the end, or I could go back and they would reassign me to another job. And officers candidate school is a lot like basic training, only triple. And you have different phases you go through. You're a lower classman, then a middle classman, then an upper classman, and every one is like a basic training experience, only it gets better as you go along. But at that point, I just decided to let them reassign me, and that took me to Panama Canal. And that's where I spent the remainder of my time in the Army and got out and came back to Monterey and started working here.
What person has had the greatest impact on your life? How or why?
Wait, but Grandpa, you were almost sent to Vietnam, weren't you?
Almost. I digress now to your question, then I'll get back to yours.
Okay, yeah.
If you remember what the question is, because I might forget by the time I'm done.
Yeah, that's okay. I know.
And what was your question?
How you almost went to Vietnam?
Oh, yeah, I almost went to Vietnam. I had gone home on leave and was supposed to go to personnel school when I got back from leave. Well, when I come back from leave, I walked into the orderly room to check in and let them know I was back. And when I walked in, everybody looked at me, and the look on their face, I could tell something was weird. And I said, "What's going on?" And they said, "Oh, while you were gone on leave, you got orders. They're sending you to Vietnam as a duty soldier, which means you go there with no particular job in mind. They just put you wherever they want you, which would probably be giving you a gun and sticking you out in the jungle somewhere." But anyhow, I was kind of freaked out about that. And because I had these, at least I thought it was a commitment to go to the personnel side of the thing. Eventually it all got worked out. And I ended up going to the personnel side of things, and that's probably what set me down to Panama, because I worked in the U.S. STRATCOM. It was the United States Strategic Air Command in Panama that kind of controlled everything for Central and South America. And it was an interesting experience in Panama. I loved it down there. It's a beautiful country.
Mm-hmm. Excuse me.
Now, your question was?
Okay. What person has had the greatest impact on your life?
That's right. What person has had the...
How and why?
That is a tough question, because there's a whole bunch of people in my life that has had an influence.
Well, you can name a couple.
Well, I've already named 3 major ones. My sons and my grandchildren. They're all very important to me. Most of them.
So that narrows down the favorites.
Dun, dun, dun.
They're all my favorites. And then I have a few great-grandchildren that are my favorites too. Let me see. I think everybody that's been in my life has some way touched it in either in a good way or maybe a learning way. So I don't know if I really have a favorite, you know?
Well, you don't have to name a favorite, just someone who influenced your life in a way that at that moment changed it for the better.
Not forever, but you know.
I can't think of one person. There's just so many. There's a guy I started working for in Monterey County. His name was Art, and he ran the communications center for Monterey County. And he taught me a lot about the profession and showed me how important it was to what we were doing to help people. So he was a major figure in my life. I want to say my parents were major figures in my life and how they brought me up and taught me the things they did. And hopefully I grew up and went away from there knowing the right things to do in life and the right way to treat people. At least I hope I have. So my parents were very important to me. My family's... Gosh.
Family is very important.
Yes.
It's always the most important thing. And to me, you don't even have to be blood related to have family. It could be a friend or, to me, even an animal.
Yeah.
I've had animals that have influenced my life a lot more than I ever would have thought.
Like Cindy and
I
Gabby.
can agree.
Her puppies.
Like Straya.
There's a guy that I met when I started playing sports in high school. His name is Larry. And
Larry.
he is the only person that I can honestly say that we have stayed close friends from our junior year in high. Well, he was a sophomore. I was a junior. And from that point on, we've always remained friends. And to this day, he's still my best friend. I sold him, when I stopped riding Harleys, I sold him my most prized Harley that I never wanted to get rid of because he's my best friend.
Yeah.
So he's been an influence in my life.
Caden.
You just mentioned Harley. Those are the motorcycles, right?
Yeah, Harley makes motorcycles.
You didn't know what a Harley was?
Well, yeah, I'm just making sure.
Harley Davidsons. Bought my first one in Panama.
What was that like?
Well, it was a 1942 Model 45 flathead, and I bought it a week before my middle son was born, and I took the whole thing apart and painted it, put it back together in about 4 days because I was waiting for him to be born. And I was just so excited, and I just worked and worked all day long and all night, and yeah, it was something else. And then I bought another Harley when I was in Panama, and it was a 1957 Panhead, and it was 3 boxfuls of parts, but it was all the parts to build a motorcycle. So I built a 57 Panhead down there and rode it while I was down there, and then sold it before I came back to the States, and then bought me another motorcycle when I came back to the States, another flathead Harley. And then in 76, when Josh was born, I bought a 72 Super Glide and kept that for a while. And then I bought a 79 Shovelhead, And that was the bike I probably remember the most, even though it wasn't my favorite bike, but it's the one I remember the most because at that time, Clint had carried the torch for the Olympics. And he was living up here at the time, but he was in a facility here. And I wanted to get him down by us so he could get round the clock visiting, whenever it's possible. And so every night when I'd come home, I'd stop and I'd feed him dinner and stuff like that. And then on the weekends, I built a sidecar platform that attached to the motorcycle. So I'd go over to where he was, and he could put his wheelchair, we'd drive it up onto the platform, and then it had straps that locked on all four corners, and then the ramp folded up behind him, and that was how he got around on the bike. And it was funny looking because he was a big guy. He was 6 foot, and I'm sitting on a motorcycle. He's on a platform next to me in a wheelchair, so he's a good 1.5 feet above me. And we'd be driving down the road, and he would just be waving at people, just having a great time on that motorcycle. And because of the MS, he had no long-term memory. So every time I'd go pick him up every weekend, it was like he just saw that motorcycle for the first time. He'd be so excited, and, we're going to go for a ride. And it was just some really great times.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah.
And then I bought a 2003 Screaming Eagle Road King. That was their 100th anniversary custom vehicle motorcycle. There was a limited number of them made, and I just fell in love with it when I saw it. So I bought that, and I had it for a few years, and then I started having issues with my knees again. And so at that point, I knew I needed to stop riding motorcycles, and I sold that to my best friend from high school. And then I had another Harley that I converted over to a trike that I still have and ride occasionally. But Harleys have been a good part of my life.
My dad was going to name me Harlequin.
Oh, yeah.
It was either Harlequin or Charlie.
Or Sam.
Or Sam.
Who's going to name me Charlie?
Yeah. Or Charlotte. But
that's
he
funny.
liked I like Charlie.
They had so many decisions for Caden's name, and mine was just like, they had no idea what they were going to name me.
Well, they thought I was going to be a boy, and they didn't know what to name her.
Yeah, they had no idea what they're going to name me. They were like, what are we going to name this girl? And then right after I was born, they decided to name me Juliet.
My dad already knew what he was going to name me. There was, no decision or nothing. He had it planned since, forever.
Okay. I was last minute. I was not prepared, but I like my name.
So we know that you've worked in the 911. I don't know what you call it, kind of job. What other kind of different jobs have you had besides the Army?
Oh gosh, my very first job was working in a machine shop in a guy's garage, and I think I was 15 years old. And I was a Boy Scout, and he was the one of the scout leaders. But they had a little machine shop in their garage, and so I got this job doing parts in there, and that was pretty cool. I enjoyed that. And then from there, I actually started working where I was getting a paycheck and had to start paying taxes and stuff. That first one was just sort of learning how to be part of the workforce. But that one was a job in a service station, and that was at the times where a lot of people probably don't even remember, where you'd walk out to the car and, can I help you? And you'd fill up the car for the person, you'd check their oil, and you'd wash their windows. And Is that all alien to you guys?
No.
Oh,
Well,
I didn't even think you would have seen those kinds of things.
No, okay, probably, yeah.
So you knew that they had gas stations where people come out and waited on you? And,
Yeah. I've heard about that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've seen it.
No, I think it went to the wayside a long time ago. And then, let's see. I worked for, after I got out of the service, I enrolled in a program through the government that was helping servicemen return. And I went to a place in San Jose called Control Data Institute. And I learned... that was scary.
That scared me.
What was it?
I'm sorry, that was my phone.
No, that's okay.
Nice ringtone.
Yeah, I like the ringtone.
You ought to hear when my wife calls. It goes, attention, the wife's calling, attention, the wife's calling. Boy, I got to get that one right away.
That happened yesterday, huh?
Did it?
Oh, no, it happened this morning.
I'm sorry, we got sidetracked here.
No, that's okay.
What were we talking about?
The jobs right after.
The jobs. And let's see, what one was I last
tech.
talking? The tech.
Tech something.
Oh, Control Data Institute. I went for computer operations and computer programming. And it was like a two-part thing where I finished first the computer operations, which I really enjoyed because I like hands-on kind of working with computers and stuff. And then the next part was the programming, and at that time it was the kind of programming where you had these boards with wires that you would unplug from here and plug over to there. It had little cards that you would key punch, and that was your program on these, and you'd run these cards through a computer, and it would spit you out a report saying what was wrong with your program, what you had to fix, and that kind of thing. And then after you fixed everything, then it would run successfully, and then you'd get on to another project. But I really enjoyed that. But when I graduated, the only jobs available were in San Jose, and we lived down here in Salinas, so I really didn't want to move up into San Jose, and it wasn't a job that paid enough to be able to move a family up there anyway. So at that point, that's how I fell into 911. I went down to Monterey County to apply for a job, and somebody said, well, right next door they're hiring in the 911. So I went, talked to the guy, and boy, that day he hired me right on the spot, and that started my career in the 911 business. So.
Yeah. Did you ever get, you said you worked with the calls, right, for 911?
Yes.
And you said that was very stressful. What was that like? Did you ever get a certain call that really freaked you out, or prank ones?
Well,
prank
got them all. And you really can't take any of them for granted. You just have to figure out how best to handle whatever particular call you got. I'll never forget one night somebody called in and said, there's a person at this address that's dead, and just hung up. And you would think that that was a prank call, but you just can't take that as a prank call. So we sent somebody out there, and sure enough, somebody had been stabbed in this house. And so I remember one night I was working, and a police officer was taking a accident report, and he was putting out some flare patterns to have traffic go around where he was working. And a drunk driver came out and hit him. And you always know the voices of the people that are talking to you on the radio. Well, all of a sudden I'm hearing somebody's voice that I'd never heard before, and he's yelling into this radio saying that the police officer's just been run down and this car's taken off, and he's given a description. And so I immediately knew that was the only officer that I had out on an accident. So, we got him help and everything, and got an ambulance sent out there for him because it was not a real bad accident, the one he was taking the report on. And I remember seeing him in the hospital, and he thanked me for saving his life, and I didn't save his life. I mean, I just did what I was supposed to do, but I appreciated him thinking that, that was there. So, there's a lot of really neat things that's happened, and there was a lot of upsetting things that happened. But I think the biggest stress about working in the 911 environment is you normally don't know how things end up. You get the call, but once they're out there, you very seldom find out, how things came out, because you're so busy handling the other calls. And you just can't dwell on this stuff, because that's what burns people out. You take all this stuff. You have to just go at the end of the day knowing you've done the best you can. And if you think you made a mistake during the day that you wish you'd done some other way, the best thing to do is learn from that mistake, deal with it, and then move on. And next time, maybe that experience will come up. You have already had something that will maybe help you do it better. So if you don't beat yourself up about things and you learn from them, then life goes pretty good.
You learn from your mistakes and got to accept failure.
Yes.
And you got to know what that feels like. Mom has set us up for that loads of times because Julie and I don't take it well. Especially when I was at school, I would cry if I got 99 and not 100.
I got 45%.
I got 93% of my book report. I was happy. I wasn't upset or anything.
I got 0.
That wasn't the baddest thing. Now that I think about it, I'd probably freak out if I got 93%. But I didn't freak out when I was younger. I think as I got into middle school, I started freaking out about grades.
You don't go to middle school.
When 6th grade, I'm homeschooled.
Josh, you get it.
You get it. Caden.
Okay.
Well, I've always had my opinion about the grading system. To put people in categories where you did C work, you did B work, you did A work. On one hand, I understand that, but on the other hand, I think it, in a way, distracts from the learning environment because you're focusing on that grade. You want to get that grade, Now, I remember when I went to UCSC, they had a pass-fail system, and I just loved that. Now, if I had been wanting to go medical school or that kind of thing, should I stop talking?
No, okay. I got it. No one touch it.
If I had to go to medical, then I could have gotten grades. But knowing that it was pass-fail, I didn't have to worry about was I getting an A, was I getting a B. I just studied the best I could and learned the best I could, and what I did on the exams, I did on the exams, and I didn't have to worry about was I getting an A or B. So I think, the grading system also puts a lot of pressure on people trying to.
Yeah.
So that's my take on the grading system.
Okay, Julie, last question.
Okay. Last question is, what advice would you give to Caden and I, the Twister sisters, and I guess Josh too? You need advice.
Yes, I do.
Well, this is for all of us. One of the biggest lessons I've had to learn in life is that it changes constantly. Life is dynamic. What you're doing today is going to be different tomorrow, and what you're doing this year is going to be different from next year, and things are not going to stay the same. So if you can embrace change and embrace that life is dynamic, you'll get through it a lot better because things don't stay the same. And when you try to keep them the same, that's when problems happen. Just roll with it and
go with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow.
That's good advice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I really like that. I should put that on my wall.
And I'm going to take your advice to heart. I'm going to go with the flow.
Also tell her to eat meat.
Oh, yeah, I should tell her. She needs...
Just next time you bite the carrot, listen to it screaming.
Yes, I will. I'll pay attention.
Okay, thank you so much, Jerry, for coming and doing such a lovely podcast with us. Sorry.
We really appreciate it.
I'm missing my words a lot.
Well, thank you all for inviting me.
And thank you, Josh, for coming, too.
Yeah.
Anytime.
And we should thank Victoria for graduating because that's why I'm here. So thank you, Victoria.
Yeah. Shout out to Victoria.
It's tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you guys going to go?
I think so.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure.
And thank you to you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We love every single one of you, and you guys are just amazing, just like the people here.
Stab me in the eye.
What kind of fist bump was that?
Wait, no, he went like this,
cool
and he almost stabbed me in the eye, and yeah, moving on.
Just go with the flow, Julie. Just go with the flow.
Yeah, go with the flow.
So when we say bye, we usually just hold the bye with everyone, and then we'll fade into our music. So subscribe. And we shall see you soon. Bye.